Okay, well, welcome back. And today I decided that I was going to look up information on this thing that you've probably heard about, and that is ivermectin. So if you've been on social media in the past, I don't know, a few weeks or a month, I guess it's been going on for, you've probably heard about ivermectin or horse dewormer. Now, if you're like me, I read that and said to myself, well, what the hell is ivermectin? I had no idea what it was, no idea why people were taking it. Was it really meant for horses or anything of the sort? It just seemed kind of crazy to me. I had really, like I said, I had no idea what the heck it was about. So, hey, I looked it up and I found out some interesting stuff. And I guess I would just want to put together something quick and kind of share it because I think it's important to know what it is, why people were taking it, what happened that caused people to be interested in that and things like that. And the reason I think this is important because while the overwhelming majority of the narrative is to just get vaccinated and all of that, there are other things going on, and I figured I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of it and see just exactly what people were all hyped up about and what was really going on, as I usually do with most of these things. So let's go ahead and take a look. As usual, I have pulled up. There we go. Some information that I found about it, and I was going to share it. So the first bit we have is from the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. A wonderful little picture of a veterinarian and a horse here. And the guy touching the dude's neck. I don't know what that has to do with ivermectin, but maybe he's prescribing it. I don't know. But anyway, let's get going. So this first part is kind of boring. Here we go. So please be aware, the FDA's job is to carefully evaluate scientific data on a drug to be sure that it is both safe and effective for a particular use, and then to decide whether or not to approve it using any treatment for COVID-19 that's not approved or authorized by the FDA unless part of a clinical trial can cause serious harm. There seems to be growing interest in a drug called ivermectin to treat humans with COVID-19. Now, when was this article written? That's kind of important, right? Content current as of 3/5. Okay. Ivermectin is often used in the United States to treat or prevent parasites in animals. Okay, a parasite like a tapeworm or something, I think, right? The FDA has received multiple reports of patients who have required medical support and been hospitalized after self-medicating with ivermectin intended for horses. Okay, so here's where we get this from. So we're already starting to see where these stories started coming from and where this whole thing started to come into play, right? So they received reports by it, right? Because these people had been hospitalized, and this is really important, after self-medicating. So these were not people, right, that were going to the doctor. They weren't seeing a specialist or anything like that. These people were, as reported here, were self-medicating. So these people that were getting a hold of this drug and just using it on themselves for whatever reason because they thought it was going to work for however they got it to work. But now here's another one that says, with ivermectin intended for horses. So ivermectin, we've already learned, is, now granted, the memes are funny about horse dewormer and stuff for horses. Those are all really funny. But that's all they are, it's just funny, right? So ivermectin is something that people can use, but it's also used in animals. Ivermectin intended for horses probably just means the dosage, right? Well, let's go. Okay, here's what you need to know about ivermectin. So the FDA has not approved ivermectin for use in treating or preventing COVID-19 in humans. Ivermectin tablets are approved at very specific doses for some parasitic worms. These are topical for head lice and skin conditions like rosacea. Ivermectin is not an antiviral, so meaning it does not treat viruses. Taking large doses of this drug is dangerous and can cause harm. Yeah, like anything else. I mean, I think a large enough amount of aspirin will kill you too. If you have a prescription for ivermectin for an FDA-approved use, you get it from a legitimate source and take it exactly as prescribed. These are pretty normal things, right? Like you go to a doctor, they say, here's what you get, and you pick it up from a pharmacy. And of course, this should go without saying, but never use medications intended for animals on yourself. Ivermectin preparations for animals are very different from those approved for people. Of course. So let's see. What is and how it's used? So they are approved by the FDA to treat people with intestinal. I'm not even going to try. or not going to try that one either. Two conditions caused by parasitic worms. In addition, some topical forms of ivermectin are approved to treat external parasites like head lice and rosacea. Okay, we read that already. Some forms are used in animals to prevent heartworm disease and certain internal and external parasites. It's important to note that these products are different from the ones for people and safe when used as prescribed for animals only. Again, should be pretty obvious stuff, right? Can taking it be unsafe? It is not the FDA has not reviewed data to support the use of it for COVID-19 patients or to treat or prevent it. However, some initial research is underway. Now that's important because what that says is that even though it is not approved and it's not being recommended, there are trials or there's initial research that's underway with it. Okay, fair enough. Taking a drug for unapproved use can be dangerous. This is true of ivermectin. Okay, there's a lot of misinformation around. You may have heard that it's okay to take large doses of it. Don't do it. Yeah, obviously, just don't take large doses of medication. Even the levels of ivermectin approved uses can interact with other medications like blood thinners, which is true. I know a lot of medications you can't use if you're on blood thinners. You can also overdose on it. You can also overdose on heroin too, which can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, low blood pressure, and allergic reactions, and you could also die. Products for animals different from people. For one thing, animal drugs are often highly concentrated because they are used for large animals like horses and cows, which can weigh a lot more than we do, or a ton more. Such high doses can be toxic. Yes, that's got to be true. Also, the reverse is true, right? Like if I take medication that's fit for me, it would like be an overdose for, say, a house cat, right? Moreover, FDA reviews drugs not just for safety and effectiveness of the active ingredients, but also for the inactive ingredients. Many inactive ingredients found in animal products aren't evaluated for use in people, or they are included in much greater quantity, and in some cases, they don't know how those inactive ingredients will actually affect someone. Fair enough. Okay, so that seems pretty standard, right? The only new information that we learned was that there are some initial trials or initial research is going on with it when it comes to ivermectin and COVID-19. But other than that, it's pretty standard stuff. Like, hey, don't take drugs that are meant for animals or that are dosed for animals. And yeah, like talk to your doctor, right? Okay, so pretty simple, right? So far, then here we have stuff from WebMD. WebMD I know is not necessarily, I think, the most, I guess it's pretty reliable, but it's more, this is more just for kind of generic information, I guess, that I was looking at for it. So same information. There's, it's a medication that treats parasitic diseases. There's two types. You can prescribe one for health conditions in people, and veterinarians can prescribe ones for animals. This is something we already know. Let's see, they've approved it for these two different types of worms, which we saw before. They can also prescribe the topical part for like head lice, rosacea, and scabies. And in animals, they'll do that. Obviously, the same thing that the FDA was saying, right? This is dangerous for humans to take it, but it's made for animals because a dosage for a large animal like a horse that can weigh, or a cow in cases that can weigh almost 2,000 pounds, horses can weigh several hundred, can be toxic for a person. Of course, this is with anything. Again, here it's not approved. And the World Health Organization, their official stance on it is you shouldn't take it unless you're enrolled in a professional medical study or clinical trial. And then it goes on, okay, it says you can take the vaccine, all that kind of stuff. And then it goes into like side effects that you might get, or if you have like allergic reactions to it. How do you take it? So if your doctor recommends it, it'll be tablets, and it'll treat these medical issues. And of course, if you have any of these other things, you also shouldn't take them. Again, the same thing with, if you're taking blood thinners or whatever. And what's also really important here is if you take one dose alone, don't double the amount. Pretty standard advice, right? Most people, most doctors, most pharmacists and everything will tell you, don't double up on doses, take the recommended amount. Also, don't take it with food. That's a thing. So then finally, the actual like World Health Organization and what they say on it. So this is something, it advises that ivermectin only be used to treat COVID-19 in clinical trials. Also from March. That's also another one that I wanted to point out now that I think about it. So when we looked at this article from the FDA, this was current as of 3/5, and then this one here, it was written March 31st. So, and this kind of lines up with when I started seeing like social media news articles posted about people using this medication in connection with COVID-19. So again, pretty normal stuff. Ivermectin is a broad-spectrum anti-parasitic agent included in the World Health Organization's essential medicines list for several parasitic diseases. Pretty cool. It's used to treat river blindness, or a word I'm not going to try and pronounce. And you can also treat scabies. Okay, we've read that before. So let's see. A guideline development group was convened in response to the increased international attention on ivermectin as a potential treatment for COVID-19. This group is an independent international panel of experts, which includes clinical care experts in multiple specialties and also includes an ethicist and patient partners. Okay, the group reviewed pooled data from 16 randomized controlled trials. The total enrolled were 2,407, so not very many. That doesn't sound like very many. That sounds like a pretty small number. Including both inpatient and outpatients that had COVID-19. They determined that the evidence on whether ivermectin reduces mortality, need for mechanical ventilation, need for hospital admission, and time to clinical improvement in COVID-19 patients is, here's the important part, very low certainty due to the small size and methodological limitations of available trial data, including a small number of events. The panel did not look at the use of ivermectin to prevent it, which is outside the scope of the current guidelines. So, again, what we know. So, ivermectin is not only a medication that you can use in animals, it is also a medication that people can use. And there are trials that have conducted or are going on, even though it is a relatively small number. And so far, the determination of that, they have very low certainty, meaning that it's not either not very effective or the results they're looking for are not what they're getting. And of course, at the bottom here, we have various other kind of guidelines, such as they recommend that you use these steroids. There's conditional recommendation against don't administer, another word I'm not going to try to say. They recommend against hydroxychloroquine or other chloroquine treatments. Don't do that. Don't use, again, other medications I'm not going to try and say. And you can use low doses of anticoagulants in hospitalized patients. And they suggest the use of low dose anticoagulants rather than high doses unless otherwise indicated. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So yeah, what did we learn about that, right? So ivermectin is, again, a medication that can be used both in people and animals. The dosages for animals, or the ones that are intended for animals, are much higher dosages, and the inactive ingredients haven't been evaluated for how they affect people. And where did all this come from, right? So it seems like around March, people started using it, but they were using the dosages that were recommended for animals, or the ones specifically formulated for animals. So yes, while all of the horse dewormer jokes are funny and the memes are great, they're not entirely accurate because, again, ivermectin is not some animal-specific medication. It can be used in people as well. So again, with things like this, I always look them up. I take them with a grain of salt, laugh at the memes, but then actually get the real information. So it seems like there are trials going on, or there are clinical studies that they're doing to see if this is effective, which, hey, you know what? Maybe they'll find out something good. Maybe they won't. We don't know. But bottom line, if you're taking medication, it's either over the counter or it's prescribed, and take the dosage it's recommended. Those are the two big things that I got from reading all this. Don't overdo it. Now, what's possible, where the jokes about horse dewormer came from, it is possible that someone had access to the veterinary version of the medication, and through either reading an article like this, which was published back in March, or an article or other information, decided to try it themselves, but only had access to the veterinary version and tried to get it. Maybe that's where it came from. I don't know. Point being, again, look, don't overdose yourself. Take recommended dosages, and only take things that have been prescribed to you. Well, anyway, I hope that was enlightening. I know it was enlightening for me. I learned something new, and I'll see you all next time.